It's 10 o'clock. Please take your seat. We are continuing our symposium with a second presentation. The topic of the second presentation is personal development plan. And I would like to invite to the podium Patrick Delisle Houde. Welcome to Prague. Patrick was appointed as full associate coach with McGill University men's hockey program. He spent 4 years with the Montreal Canadiens, where he served as the NHL team strength and conditioning coordinator. He will speak about exercise physiology and kinesiology, about player strength and conditioning development. The floor is yours, Patrick.
Thank you. I don't think that's working. Is this working? Yeah, we're good. Perfect. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for being here this morning. Associate coach with McGill University. Before that, I was with the Montreal Canadiens 4 years as a strength coach. I did my undergrad and my master at McGill University, and this morning I'm going to talk to you about personal development plan for your players. And you'll see it's like there's multiple pillars that we're going to talk about. And I gotta say thank you first to my teams at McGill, our head coach Dave Urquhart, all our assistant coach. We're not a big team. We have one skilled coach that is there part-time, and we're only 2 full-time coaches. And I'll tell you that right now because this is putting you in context of what I'm going to talk to you about. There's always a way of making it work if you're using the resources that are put in place. And I got to say that I'm from Canada, I'm from Montreal in Quebec, and most of my stuff is being stolen. Like André Tourigny, head coach of Hockey Canada, said yesterday, all the coaches are good, they're good robbers, they steal stuff. So if at the end of the day you can steal one thing, one little piece, one little nugget, and that makes your program better or your team better, I think that's a win. So if I just start here by a little quote, and those are 2 famous quotes, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend 4 hours sharpening the axe, from Abraham Lincoln. I think as coaches or as anybody who works in hockey, we spend a lot of time planning about for our team, planning for our players, planning our road trips, planning coming to the coaching symposium. The speaker before me had a great presentation talking about planning for yourself. But as coaches, and like Sheldon Keefe said right after his loss before he gets fired, but I thought it was pretty up to date. My job as coach is to find solution and chart down a path ahead for our players. And he was talking about his team, but it's the same thing for every individual. We got to chart a path for them to be successful, to grow, and be able to reach the next level or keep them involved into hockey. Quick outline here. We're going to talk about the starting point for a personal development plan, the partnership that we do with our players. We're going to focus on strength. There's multiple players, but we're going to focus today on strength conditioning and the hockey side of it, and the best reason for it, and those are more my specialties than mental performance. I think you guys can listen to David Scott's presentation tomorrow, and you guys are going to be full of information there. I'm not the expert on this. And after that, we're going to talk about how to summarize it for our players to make it understandable for them, because they don't need to know every single detail, but we need to make it in the lay language that's going to help them being involved and being in there and creating that partnership with them. And the objective of today is basically clarify or improve your PDPs. And that's how we're going to call the personal development plan. Because nowadays, especially with the youth that we have at university, we're working with players between 19 to, I would say the oldest one this year was 27. They all ask us, I'm sure you guys, even with your team, if you have younger or older, what's the plan for me? And even when I was with the Abs, it's what the plan is for me. How are you going to bring me to the next level? How are you going to make me play in the NHL? How are you going to make me play for my country's team? And we all have the same, but most of us are going to go with subjective or things that we saw. We're going to talk about hockey techniques. Well, you need to glide more on the inside edge, or you're going to talk about individual tactics. Well, your angling needs to be a little bit better. Or you're going to talk about hockey tactics. Well, I'm going to make you play on the power play. I'm going to teach you how to play on the power play. And after that, on the strength coach side of it, you're going to talk about, well, we all want to be bigger, stronger, and faster. That would be nice, but that's not necessarily how it works. I would love all my players to be bigger, faster, and stronger. And we're going to tell them, well, I'm going to make you a better leader. Okay, that's great. But how are you going to do that? And this morning, that's what we're going to talk about. How do we make our players better? How do we incorporate that to make a plan for them and that they're involved in it and they buy into it? And from there, we start. Oh, this is in French. I'm sorry about that. I've been working in English for about 10 years. I didn't even know I still had stuff in French. That's probably for my Hockey Quebec certification, but I've been looking into like a team plan, very simple. We're like talking coaches all together, like spitballing ideas. Well, we have a team plan. Why we don't incorporate our individual in it? Well, it's not precise enough. We're not talking enough about them. And then we started looking into stats, and like I thought this one was kind of funny. In the NHL, currently in the NHL, there's about 20% of the players that are from Ontario, which is a province in Canada. They produce most of their players through the OHL, which is the junior system. And I was reading a book, Selling the Dream, from Jim Parcell, and I know it's a long time ago, but so imagine the numbers are probably even more now. In 1968, 300,060 players were born in Ontario, kids were born in Ontario. Only 30,000 went to play hockey. A very minimum number were drafted in the OHL, the junior system, and only 65 were drafted, and that's back when there were even more rounds of players drafted. That's a very little perspective, like number of players. So that put us into perspective how we were helping them every day. So we started looking into the Hockey Canada, and like it's a very the long-term development model. This is available for everybody. I took it from their website, basically, which talk about how we bring a youth, very, very young, the discovery of hockey, to an expert. And we were looking at it, it's like, well, now the expert are 21-year-old. This is basically the youngest player on my team. They're not expert. So we started digging more into it, and we found some wording. Like the semantic of it was very important for us. We found 4 things that were kind of clever to us. A player-centered approach. Okay, so our team plan doesn't necessarily fit the personal plan for the players. So we're going to need to center it to a player. A broad foundation. We all want to work on the nice hedges going around the cone, but what's their broad foundation? Are we looking at every aspect of it? It's a long-term process. If you're going to a hockey school in 1 week, yes, you're going to get better because you're more on the ice, but you're not even looking into the future, how you're going to keep improving. And I was talking to you about the resources that we have. We need to align our player development with the resources that were available to us. If I'm telling you, if you're looking at an NHL team and they have like 2 mental performance coach, they have a bunch of they have 2 strength and conditioning coach. Back when I was there, we had 1 strength and conditioning coach and 1 sports science director. They had like 4 athletic therapists, 5 coaches, 2 video coaches. They had a lot of stuff, but that's not the case for everybody. That's not our case. So we need to adjust with the resources that we have to give the best development possible at each individual. So this is a very simple, long, continuum of progress. Where are we now? What's our short-time goal? And our short-time goal, the way we see it, is basically a checklist. We're making a checklist of things that we need to do to get to our long-term goals with our players. So that's where we're going to start focusing at the beginning. We're the present. What do we want to do? Do we tell them that they need to improve their backward skating? Because I saw them twice last week skating and they fell or they didn't do it properly. How do we draw a picture? And I think the best way of drawing pictures is having subjective points like this, but it's also putting data into place, having assessment, having proper assessment that show what you want to see, and tell the player where he's at the moment. Feel like skip. Yeah, okay. Perfect. That's our starting point, assessment. From there, one of the biggest part is often as a coach, we have a little tendency of we want to learn, but we know it all. Because we've seen it, we've been there. We play the game. We coach many players, and that's how you're going to do it. Well, players nowadays, they're on their phone, they have available resources all the time, so we need to involve them into their personal plan. We create a partnership with our players, and that's basically a very simple template that we do right after all of assessment. We go through our personal development plan, and we have those 6 pillars, and we're going to determine the what do we want to accomplish, how we're going to do it, and we're big on habits, how those habits are going to help us out getting there. The process, for us, it's the, how we call it, the midterm, but it's basically when the final exam arrive in December, when we do the midterm of the season, and the appraisal is after. Where do we go from there for the upcoming season? So that's our partnership with the players. We always, and that's got to come from them. If you tell them what it is, why would there be any buy-in? If there is a conjunction of both individual and even all the team together to make it work, I think that's where you guys are going to improve your players the best. Pillar of success, and there was 6. I'm not telling those are the 6 best that you can find. I'm sure you guys have different one. And if you guys want to talk about it at the end of the session, I would love to hear more about it. But I'm going to talk about hockey, those like the team, the skills, the individual, the contribution that you have, the grit that you bring to the game. For us, we have strength conditioning, the strength, the speed, the power. With our players, we're going to talk about leadership, how they fit into the team, what they represent in their own context. They might be a first year into the team, they might be a 5th year to the team, and now because of COVID and they give back a year, they might be a 6th year in the team. So a 6th year in the team is going to have a different perspective, it's going to have a different context than the first year. However, it doesn't mean they cannot lead in your team. There's going to be a mental performance side of it. There's a bunch of tools, and I know Scotty's going to talk about some tomorrow. But as coaches, as leader of this team, we have to take an important role into their learning and their plan. The academics point of view, I know it's not for everybody, but the academics point of view, if anybody is like coach at the university, we do believe that it's important to help them out in this phase and also in life. And we love to ask the question, what else? And what else? The how question, because success is, there's multiple facets to success, and it doesn't mean that if my success goes through hockey, strength conditioning, and academics, that somebody else's success might not go through the life that he's led, some aspect of his life, the mental performance, and the hockey as well. Obviously, when we make our partnership with our players, we're not going to ask them to fill out all that sheet and come back with one objective in each category. They're going to be the driving force, which means we're going to ask them to come back with 2 to 3 minimum pillars that they feel it's important to them. And that's where we're going to focus most of our energy, because that's where we're going to get their focus and their buy-in. If we ask them to, I'm not going to say that, but if academics are not important for them, and we ask them to put like an emphasis on academics, well, that's not going to bring any buy-in. That's not going to bring any energy. They're not going to be focused, and we're not going to spend our energy at the right spot. So, just a little, we're going to start working on strength conditioning. First thing, assessment. Before assessing something, we need to know where it is. We cannot assess blindly. And I don't want to do a lit review, but I was looking through my old papers when I was working with the Habs, and I found this one that was pretty good. And that's after, actually. And that's a lit review done by, I'm not going to butcher his name, but Vi Larson and more. I hope I didn't butcher it. And it defined what is the physiology of the sport. And we need to know where it is. Like on-ice activity I'm going to read this very quickly. On-ice activity are complex and multifaceted and require endurance, speed, and strength in conjunction with highly developed technical, tactical, cognitive ability, allowing swift decision-making, execution, and of specific in-game movement and skill. Ice hockey is a high-intensity intermittent team sport characterized by brief bouts of fast-paced skating and thirst with long-duration bouts of passive recovery. Studies have documented that each shift typically lasts between 30 and 80 seconds, which is a very wide range, with subsequent recovery of period of 2 to 5 minutes. So that's a very wide range. And that's a lot of information. I'm hearing speed, I'm hearing strength, I'm hearing power, I'm hearing aerobic, because like 35 minutes, we're falling into the aerobics, we're worrying anaerobic. Where do we go with all that information? What do we want to assess? And this is more towards like what you guys feel that's the most important for your team and for your players. So we're starting assessment, screening assessment. There's a bunch of assessing. I know the presenter after me is going to talk about fitness testing. So I'm just going to go briefly into it. But there's also a way of assessing during a regular team training. You guys can take observation as coaches. It doesn't mean we don't know how they move. We don't see what's their habit in their training. And we need to be collaborator with, if you have a strength coach, or if you are the strength coach, you need to be collaborator to help them in their process. Practices and game, those are great. We're talking about strength conditioning. We're seeing in practice and conditioning. You can see if the person can last the full practice, is he able to handle the full volume. Is he fast enough for his position? Is he fast enough for the role that he wants to play on his team? Those are all subjective observations that you guys can make. This is a very quick slide. There's a lot of numbers. Those are some testing that we do. They're not all there, but we basically assess our players. We have fitness testing at the beginning of the year. Like most teams, we're going to have some more through the season that we're going to repeat depending on each individual. And that allows us to rank them, to show them where they are. Some people don't like ranking, but every player wants to be the best on their team, so they need to know where they stand. Compared to them, and also compared to the best, the average, and we also have more tables comparing them year after year to see if they have an improvement, and if against the average, are they improving? Let's say it's my third year at McGill. We started creating a base on some testing that we repeat every year. This way, we're able to see if the average is improving and if they're improving compared to the average of the team. And this is our first classification that we're going to do for them, because we said we need to put it into a lay language. A lay language is, we want to know if they're strong or fast. Can I classify them? Can I put them in that map and see where they are? There's a bunch of testing that you guys can use to create those. We basically just use, we create a force velocity curve with one of our testing with a squat and a high pull, and we were able to place them on this map. And that gave a visual right away to the players. Are you strong? Are you slow? Compared to the rest of the team, compared to the previous years. And from there, we all want to improve their skating. We're going to want to push that curve, but now we know where do they need. Nope. Okay. Where are they in that curve and where they need to work? Let's say somebody who's weak and slow, well, he's going to need to work the entire curve. He's going to need to work into speed, and he's going to need to work into strength and maximal strength. But somebody who's very strong, but still slow, you're wondering, like, why is he slow? He's the strongest of my team. Or maybe he doesn't have any speed. So instead of keeping him making lift very heavy, I'm going to make him work with very high velocity. And at the end of the day, what we're going to do, we're going to increase that little bar in the middle, improving that power and raising it up. And that's going to make you a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, and hopefully making you reach your goal and objective that you have designed for yourself. Another one that we classify for our players is, well, another one, the second one we have is basically aerobic versus anaerobic. In very lay language, long versus short bursts of activity. And two tests that we use very simple for it was a Wingate test, and we personally use a beep test. You can do a bunch of VO2 max tests that are available. There's some maximal, there's maximal. You can do it with the gas. They're all good depending, again, on your resources. But this way, you can classify them, and you're not going to be changing where the energy is coming from. Like, the energy is going to be coming from the same place. However, you're going to be able to push their capacity, and their aerobic or anaerobic capacity, and you're going to be able to move just slightly the threshold. And by moving slightly the threshold, the performance in your anaerobic and aerobic are going to be better. They're going to be able to last longer. They're going to be able to push harder. From there, now we have the assessment. We have the numbers. We have some subjective data. We have some observation. We're sitting down with our player, couple person of the staff, like our head coach and our 2 assistant coach, and we ask him to previously fill out that sheet with the numbers, so he knows where he stands. From there, we have a discussion with them, and as an example, this player picked strength conditioning. He said, I want to increase lower body strength throughout the season, which is not a small asking, by the way, depending on your level, depending on your age. But somebody who's like 22, 23-year-old, increasing strength during the season, depending on your number of games, it's a big ask. However, if he knows how he's going to do it, here he says, work out 3 times a week, recover properly, that we have to define. And I'm going to periodize my training. Perfect, that light up's a little light here. Our strength coach needs to be involved. Their periodization of training, our strength coach needs to be there, needs to talk to him. Right away, we have a step further into our personal development plan. We need to know he needs to talk to our strength coach for creating a periodization training. From there, habit, sleep hygiene, and schedule. Great, he just addressed himself, the recovery properly. For him, sleep is the keystone habit that he needs to respect. Proper warm-ups, that's great, that's something that he can monitor. Now, we know where we're going. We have the assessment. We know where we're going. We know how we're going to do it. We need to implement it. It's not, we need to have, as coaches, we need to know how we're going to do it as well. So we talk to them about, we basically have 4 branches. We talk to them about velocity-based training. And I'm not saying those are the 4 best branches, but I'm just saying how we do it and how we clarify it for them. We have velocity-based training, strength training that I could just clarify as general training, any kind of different technique, conditioning, and mobility. So velocity-based training, why do we use it? Because it helps us out moving that curve up by working in the proper area. I'm not saying that somebody who's very strong should never work strength. I'm saying that maybe you should spend a little bit more time into high velocity. And at the same time, it gives the athlete instant feedback. And nowadays, we know that with our phone, instant feedback is very important. So we're adapting our methods to the clientele that we have. The second part, strength training, general training. I should just say that this is basically any other type of training that you're going to see. Like it might be, we personally, I know like that's not going to be the case for any strength coach, but we include plyos, we include the contrast methods, every other technique that you have. That's going to be a base that we're going to put into that category. And that's going to help us out improve different physical abilities, but also preventing injuries. As an example, in that category, I would include rotator cuff strengthening. Very simple, but that falls into that category. Conditioning. We picked 3. Because for us, those are three very important. You need to be able to repeat sprint on the ice, the volume, and the mental challenge. But what does that look like? What does that look like for us as coaches? Repeated sprint, very simple. Line them up, short bursts of activity, 4 or 5 seconds. Take care of the rest. As coaches, we need to know what kind of rest that they need. A ratio of 1:8, 1:12. Perfect, we have our repeated sprint abilities. That's one of them. You guys can design training or exercise that you guys feel, but at least we have that short burst with proper recovery to improve that anaerobic part. Volume base. Volume base. We often talk about foundation at the beginning of the season. Well, it follows us through the season. If your volume is properly designed, it makes the job of the head coach and your assistant coach a lot easier at the end, because they're able to maintain that intensity towards when they're starting to get tired. And the way we increase it, oftentimes long practice, sometimes they don't have the mental width, they don't have the bandwidth anymore to focus on proper technique, on little drill that you're gonna ask them. We do races, compete. This group needs to catch, the black needs to catch the red. That lasts about 40, 45 seconds. It's hard, and they increase the volume. So my base is bigger at the end, without asking them to focus that very hard on a tactic or a technique that I'm asking them to do. And mental challenge. We do believe, I'm sure you guys read books on you're always able to push through the wall Well, we are working on this off the ice. Let's say as an example, here's the 250 calories. You mark your time if you want to mark your time. You don't have to. We're a school, so we're very careful about that. Coaches are involved, but they know where they fit, and they challenge themselves, and they push through the wall using those little conditioning drill off the ice. Mobility. This is a very fine topic. It's very trendy, posture, mobility. It's Instagram, you can put it out there. But for us, the way we define it with our players is appropriate movement that you need to do. So as an example, the goalie is styled to always go right to left, and he's always in that position like mine there. Well, he's going to need to have the flexibility to get there, but also the strength to maintain it. So you can have a range of motion, but if you don't have the strength through that range of motion, well, you're not going to be able to stay in that position and not get injured. And the same thing for, let's say, that player was doing open pivot, open up, cross-B, whatever you guys call it. If you don't have the mobility of your hips to get there, well, I'm not going to be able to teach him on the ice. And he's not going to be able to maintain it and use it during a game. And the second part of mobility is move well. You guys see, I don't know which level you guys are coaching, but we see them every day. We need to make sure that they're moving properly. They're able to reach above their head without having any problems. So that's part of our job, making sure they have something designed that they're going to be able to do their job on the ice, and they're going to be able to keep going in their daily life without any problem, without any permanent injuries. So we're coming back to our personal development plan. Now, we need to fill out the progress and the appraisal, which is after the season. And how do we do it? Basically, the same process as we just did. We sat down with them, we're looking at the data, we're looking at the objective, and the progress can be monitored with multiple different things in strength conditioning. Can be objective. Let's say, he said how. Did he log in 3 workouts a week? Did he follow the training plan? Did he improve his lower body strength? How do we know that? Do we have any assessment? So with that player, I remember that we did basically a very simple, we had a squat test, a 1-arm squat test. That's what he was looking for, very simple test. So this way we know where he's at mid-season, and we're going to know where he's at the end of the season. Somebody doesn't like the test, somebody doesn't like testing, and just enter his load, monitor his load, and he's going to see if there's any progress there. Any question before I keep going on strength conditioning? Raise hands. No? Hockey side of it. I'm going to raise a very funny question because we just look at the coaching hockey framework. So I'm going to send that to you guys. First thing I talked about was assessment. So now we're going to need to know what is hockey if we want to assess it. Because we all have different, there's many, I got heard that we're many different countries, we're all from different places. I'm sure we define our good hockey player in very different ways. So we need to know what does it represent for you guys, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to implement with your players the development plan. So we were looking at a definition. We look a bunch of different ways. It's not easy. So I'm going to come back to the physiology of the sport. I'm just going to highlight 2 points. Develop technical, tactical, and cognitive ability, and execute a task, basically, in a range of motion, in a range of movement so change of direction, all that stuff. So where do we go from there? Coming back to that personal development plan, hockey side of it, we spend our time in 4 different branches: team, the individual, the skills, and the grit. Those are our 4 branches that we're going to spend our time on. Assessment. So assessing the team is a little bit harder in the development plan. Oftentimes we just talk about the fit. How do you fit through that team? The individual often is going to be, what's your contribution? And it can be designed in multiple different ways. The skill assessment, we're going to have a skill assessment that we took and adapted from Hockey Canada, and a grit that we stole somewhere else, but that we're going to that we stole somewhere else, but that we implemented into practices and game. Huge disclaimer, we basically stole this from gold medal pathway, Corey McNabb, Dean Seymour at Hockey Canada, and we adapted it because it was not perfect for our players, so we just changed it a little bit. We had those 4 skills that we thought were very important: forward skating, backward skating, puck control. You guys named them. We defined them. We spoke with our players. We looked at what was the most interesting for us, tactical for forward, for defense. And we made basically a ranking 1 out of 5. And this is very subjective, but at least it gives us an idea of where he was at, and not just, well, he needs to be a little bit more leaning on his left when he's turning, or he needs to extend his leg as he's pushing when he's skating. And we, like, 5 is super elite, 4 is in elite, and we start drawing some pictures for them to tell them where they're standing at the moment. Not where they're going to finish, but where they're standing at the moment. And this is an example of a practice sheet that they had from Corey McNabb and Dean Seymour. And very simple, they're very easy drill. They're things that you can observe. And we basically, like as an example, we'll focus on defining the drill, having the key teaching point, and having the key evaluation point. And that's something that we make sure we mention to our players. Because if they have the information, and if we teach them the information, the presenter before me talked about like teaching in this presentation, if we teach them the proper, what they need to do, there's a way better chance that they're going to be successful at the end of the day. And this is just hopefully that works. Nope. Can you bring back? Sorry about that. Thank you. Oh, great. Can you cut the volume? Can you turn off the volume? So very simple. This is one of the skill assessments that we did. Started with skating. We have coaches on the ice that are there to provide the feedback, provide the key evaluation point, provide the key teaching point. We also have coaches in the stands that are there to evaluate. And we film those so to go back. Very important for us to go back and look again and use it as a key teaching point. Here are basically inside edges. The next one's a very simple passing drill. Looks very silly, figure 8 passing. However, there's a bunch of element to it. He's able to catch a pass without stick handling after. He's able to raise his head, look up, look down. Is he communicating with his player, with his teammate? Is he turning properly? Here's another one for defensemen, change of direction. And to the left is all Canadian. To the right is a still a very good player, but not the same. You guys can see the difference into crossing over. There's 1 crossover for the red. There's 2 to 3 crossover for the left. Efficiency. And you're able to compare that and show it to the player of what is the difference between efficiency in a skill, and what is the difference between an average skill done. And it doesn't mean because you're able to do a task that is the proper technique. And it doesn't mean because you don't have the perfect technique that you're not able to do a task. For us, a skill is basically a task. Are you able to change of direction? Yes. Great. Are you able to make it better? And that's what we're looking at in our skill assessment. From there, we're filling out that grid. At least 2 of our coaches need to assess 1 player. We're conscious of our time. We know that we're not able when, like, you guys have the same, depending on your resources. We're making an average, and we're making sure we're putting comments into it. And we're coming back on certain aspects. As a player, if he wants to improve his backward skating, now I have a baseline. I have a baseline for him. And we're always using a couple of our drill. Let's say those last 2 drill that you guys saw, the weave agility for defensemen and the figure 8 passing, we take into account the time and the completion rate. This way, it's another layer of tangible data that we have for them that we're able to help them out in their personal development plan. What does it look like in a game? Those are playoff from last year, if I remember correctly. If you look at the bottom of the screen, 27, that's basically the player we're going to be looking at. Shea Theodore. Change of direction. He's going to go forward. He's going forward, coming back. Efficiency, skate, stride, C-cuts, open up, no crossover. Same thing here. Open up, no crossover. Sorry for the little lag. Last one here. Pivot, no crossover. C-cut, pivot, no crossover. Hard on his skate, able to make a play. Those are little skill that we're going to be able to find in practice, that we're going to be able to show it to our players in games, and what does it look like. Next one, in our personal development plan that we do, we talk about, in the hockey side of it, we talk about grit. Again, we need to define it. What is grit? What is grit? And I took this one from the American Psychology Association. Grit entails working strenuously to overcome challenges and maintaining effort and interest over time despite failure, adversity, and plateaus in progress. You're looking at that, you're like, that's not really how I define grit in my hockey team. Yes, no, maybe. Depends on everybody. I found that from William Henson, University of Alberta, as he was making research. Grit has multiple meanings. The prevalent hockey definition typically reference at playing with an edge. Okay, that's getting there. It's getting interesting. Now, if you take a second and you think about what is grit in my team, because we might all have, we're from multiple different countries, we might have all different definition to it. So we sat down, we challenged each other of what it represents for us, and we came up with 5 points. Basically, finishing in front every time you have a chance, 50-50 battles, first touch on loose puck, and I gotta say, we stole this one from Daniel Belfry. Edge battles, being inside of the net. So offensively mean getting inside, being behind the D, and as a defenseman, boxing out, keeping the players away from your net. Then from there, we created a grit assessment. That's an afternoon in the office. But the main goal, it could be any drills, as long as the drill represents what you're looking for. And that's going to give yourself, that's going to give you a player, that's going to know your player that you're putting in emphasis on how they're playing. Are they playing with grit? And if I show a quick video here, a couple drills that we did, as I said, they're not the only one that you can do. You guys can design your own drill, but that's going to give you a quick idea here. Boxing out, getting inside. Player, just keep the puck away. Player, just keep the opponent away from the puck. Here's another time. Very simple. Guy's trying to get inside, trying to get there. Keep him away. Work at keeping away. Oh, he got it. 2 versus 1. Keeping him away. Puck protection, winning battles. Same thing here. Get to that puck. Work to get inside. Here's basically a sprint, first touch. If you get a first touch, you're winning that battle. Every time you're getting that touch first, you're influencing the play in the way that you want. And that's what we're looking for. That's what we're talking, playing with an edge. Talking about grit, that's for us, that's where it is. Winning that lane to the puck, getting that first touch, and getting to the net first. Here's a one-on-one, basically straight back. Some people are going to call it Olympic one-on-one. As defenseman, you want to keep him away from the net, and it's a one-on-one battle. It's not a 50-50 battle, but it's a one-on-one battle. That's playing with grit. Finishing in front. 2v2 box out. Same thing here. They're coming down. They're attacking the net. On the whistle, there's going to be 2 new players coming out. Here are the Reds. Boxing out. One guy's keeping away. As you can see, the last guy finishing the Reds, finishing inside, he's getting the win. He's getting the win for us. And at the end, we're basically bringing everything together. 2v2 down low. As you guys can see, take the shot. Who's going to get that? Who's getting under the net? Red gets under the net. He's not getting that first touch, or he lost there. He's creating a battle. After that, he's getting a first touch. Those are all little points for us that makes a big difference into the game. And we assess those into practice. Do we do it every practice? No. We don't have time to do that. I don't think you guys have time to do that either. But we do it once in a while. We warn our players that we're going to do it, and for them, it's an assessment day. So, as an example, our best player won 13 of his battles. 13 of his, each time that he went, he either had a first touch, won his 50-50 battles, or he get inside of the net. 49% rate. Same team. One player went for 6 to 18. So when we're sitting down with those players and developing a personal plan, I don't think one of them does. I don't think number one needs to work on his grit. However, 21 might need to get there a little bit. Then that's going to make him aware of it. Very important, making it aware. In a game here, number 2 at the bottom, 50-50 battle, gets that puck, move that puck up the wall. Same player, same game, 50-50 battle, blue gets out with it. Here, 27, he gets underneath, gets a battle, win that puck, try to create a play. Same player again, same game. 50-50 battle on the board. Blue gets out, he gets a loss. And we're going to count them all the time. For us, it's an assessment. Even if we're in game, we're making sure they're accountable to it. Inside of the net, 16 lost his guy, 8, the blue player gets to the net, gets a rebound. Edge battles on the corner, race, the blue boxing out. He's getting that puck first. Last one here, finishing in front, number 9, finish in front. Not a big hit, but he's back first. Same player, same game. Finish a big hit. Blue jumps into the play. He's not finishing in front. Those are all little details that we're going to add into our assessment, which is going to provide more information to our players. At the end of the day, we use those categories and we use percentages to evaluate our players into games. And that comes into our development plan. And also, it's very good for your team if you want to know where you're standing at in each categories and where you want to work a little bit more into your practices. Last example here, playoff. That might be 3 games ago if you guys follow. I know you guys are at the championship, but if you guys followed, very simple. The white here, creating a battle, winning a battle, getting to that net, getting inside, no box out, is getting a goal. Same game, different player. He's creating a battle. He's winning that battle, getting a touch on it. Puck gets on the board, first touch. Move that puck up, great. 2 players getting inside, first touch. I'm influencing the play the way I want. My players are driving the net. There's no box out. Player gets inside. For us, that's a result of our grit assessment right there. Last part into our assessment that we're going to go into our individual plan is our individual assessment. How do you do it? There's a bunch of different ways to do it. We wanted to see the contribution to the players. So for us, we have a post-game survey after every game. It goes straight into their phone and asks them to rank their game overall, their mental preparation out of 5, their physical preparation, their comping and rating, and add any comment for discussion. Because more the comment for discussion there is, better we're going to be able to improve and work through the planning that we did. We do the same thing for every player. Well, we don't, not the same thing, but we go through all of our players and we go overall rating. This way, we're able to compare. Are we on the same page? Are we improving? Are we performing the same way? And that helps us out into our personal development plan. And we also have posts, and by the way, they have access to those ratings. It's not because I rank one of my players a 1 for a game, which is not a very good game, influence the game in a bad way, that I don't want him to know. I want him to know, and I want him to discuss with him why that happened. Post-game scoring chances, I'm sure a lot of you guys do it. We go through it, and this is, I think, after a playoff series, so that was 3 games together. Those are very useful to know what's happening when you're on the ice. So every time you're on the ice for scoring chances, you're getting a +1. Every time you're on the ice for scoring chances against, you're getting a -1. You guys are going to tell me, well, I'm not even in the zone when the play happened. Yes, but if you're -40, there must be something somewhere that you're not doing properly. If you're +10, maybe there's something good that you're doing. And that we're going to be able to link into our other assessment. That might be a finish in front that you didn't do that lead up to a scoring chances. That might be a mangling, and that's in our skill assessment. All those things, we're going to be able to link them together. And now we're able to, with all that assessment that we did, we're able to come back to our personal development plan. And we're going to be able to fill it up with our players. As an example, same players as earlier. He wants to constantly perform at an average of 3.6 performance score, which is influencing the game positively more than half of the game. For him, that's how he's going to follow it. produce offensively over 0.5 point a game. That's not an assessment plan, but it's something we can help him out. And having a positive plus-minus scoring chances. How he's going to do it, we have to determine that for him. Pre-prepare for practices. This is not that precise, so that's probably something that we're going to try to work with him to define a little bit more the how. Being prepared is a little bit too vague for us. Focus on recovery, stress management, and sleep. Great sleep. Again, if it was his keystone habit earlier, it's still going to be in his habit. That's great. On the ice, support teammate when they have puck to be an option to release pressure and opportunity. That's good because in game and in practices, we're filming both, so we're able to give them feedback on this. We're going to have a habit. Again, perfect sleep is there, so everything aligns with what he's saying. We're going in the right direction. Getting school done to focus on hockey, that's good too, because he said that he wanted to limit his stress. So that's something that we're going to have to support him into. And finishing at net, shooting to score in practice. So because practice our film, we're able to get back to him and be able to follow those habits in the long run. How are we going to implement that training? Again, that's very nice to have a plan, but if you don't know how you're going to implement it, that's a little bit hard. So all of that goes into our team practices. You guys are going to tell me it's a personal development plan. How does it go in team practices? Well, 10 of you guys need to work on angling. Maybe I should add angle into my practice. Individual practice, we're going to have skill session once a week, and we're going to have individual practices after and before. We're going to have spare time to make sure we work on those little aspects of their personal plan. We're going to have a skill coach dedicated to that, and all of our coaches on staff are going to be there to help it out. So if my defenseman needs to work on the change of direction, I'm going to make sure in my week I'm sparing time for him to work on it and get some feedback, get some filming it, reviewing it, teaching it, and reviewing the evaluation and the key teaching point that we talked earlier in our skill assessment. The last way that we're going to implement it is through video session. I'm aware that not everybody has video, but this is a great tool. Now we all have phones, so we all can film games and practices, and we're going to have each week, we're going to meet each players, making sure we have feedback on their game, but also tracking down what they need to improve in their personal development plan, even if it's going well, if they're going through it, if it's improving, if there's any difference than before. And from there, we monitor, reassess, and adapt. If my players a little bit before said that he wanted to do 3.6 average on his personal score, on his personal survey, and after the first half, he's at 4. Well, maybe that's not the proper objective that we have set up. He's succeeding, but is he really improving if he's already there? So we're going to adapt our plan, and that's where it's important to review those with the players and working through that partnership with them. Lastly here, summarize it to our player. This is a lot of information. They don't need to know all of that, so we summarize it for them. We talk about hockey. We're going to talk about the team play, where they fit, individual player, what's their contribution to the team, which tactics do you need to improve to do that contribution, skills, what are the ability that you need to execute the task that they need to do. If you're a defensive defenseman, you might need to work on your skill of boxing out. So those are tasks that you're going to need to do. Grit, are you playing with an edge to bring us to the next level? Are you playing with an edge to accomplish what you want to do on the ice? Then from there, the way we're going to implement it, we just go through them with it. Very simple. Then we talk about strength conditioning. We just rate the fact that we're going to do we're going to do fitness testing. Obviously, we give them the fitness test as before because they all want to know how they score well on it, even if it doesn't really matter. But we go through strength versus speed. Are you a strength athlete or a speed athlete? Are you both or are you none of them? Are you an aerobic or an anaerobic, which is oftentimes one of the two, but how can you, and we're going to tell them that we're going to rank them, and that's how we're going to help them get to the next stage. We're going to talk to them about mental performance, and we're just going to tell them at the beginning, you guys are going to go through our evolution, you're going to go through our pyramid, and we're going to talk about mental skill, that's our base. We're going to go through interpersonal skill. Speaker before me, interpersonal skill, and then at the end, the goal is by the 5th year is working on his professional skill, which is basically having the discipline to teach others, performing under pressures. We're going to talk to them about academics. We're going to tell them that we're going to help them out finding the best program as possible. Their pathway, are they somebody that are very good in school, that they can take 6 classes? Are they somebody that needs to be a little bit old up and they need more tutoring? And give them the guidance for them to succeed. I'm going to talk to them a little bit about leadership, leading in every direction. We talk about their own context. Are they going to be somebody who's leading from the bottom, from the side, or from the top? And life, we're going to ask the question, and what else? And what else? How can we help you succeed in life outside of hockey, if that's a cornerstone for your personal development on the ice? Thank you very much. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Do you hear me? Yes. Yes, we have 2 questions. The first one, what are the defensive skills? There was a lot of skills based on offense.
Defensive skill, there's a lot of offense. It's a lot of defense, too. Actually, you know, it's funny. Every time you don't have the puck, it's a skill. It's a time to have a skill. So most of our grit assessment is based on defensive skill. If you're finishing in front every time that you don't have the puck, it means you're in a defensive position on your opponent. So that's a good skill. Other skill that we're going to put a lot of time on is boxing out, being at the intersection, being able to raise, get under the stick. And the last one I would say here is probably angling, which means we're bringing the opponent into a zone that we're looking for.
Next one, how many coaches work on the statistics you use? How many hours of work is to complete the stats for one game?
How many coaches working on the statistics? Well, in our staff, we have 2 full-time coaches, myself and our head coach. We have one part-time assistant coach. We have 1 skill coach and 1 goalie coach. So we're basically putting a lot of hours to complete a stats assessment like this in a game. It's a couple hours. It's 2-3 more hours of work, not more than that, because we're already going through the game. And I'm going to say that, like everything else, you get faster as you do more.
Next question, when you rate player after each game, do you go through the assessment of all his shifts and all the situations he was involved in?
So the way we do it is we gather up after the game, coaches together, we rate the player right away. All of us, we rate the player right away. Then we go through the game, and then we go through all of his shift, and we adjust our rating if we need to. Because I think it's important to have a feeling on it right after the game. Then after that, reevaluate of what our feeling is. And it's good for our personal development plan to see if there was any bias by his last shift or by his first shift or by anything else.
Do you use any tools to assess mental resilience, positive attitude, stress, motivation?
We personally don't use any tool. There's a bunch of tools out there. Our mental performance coach is a PhD student at our school, so she's not there full time. She helps us out as much as he can, but we don't use any, I know you guys can use the tests, you guys can use a bunch of different. This is going to be a great question for David Scott tomorrow, I think.
Next one, how often you do these evaluations and discuss them with the players?
So these evaluations, skill assessment and grit assessment, we do it minimum 2 times a year. What we're trying to do is incorporate it more, but it always depends again on resources. So we do it once in the fall semester, once in the winter semester for the practice. The game one, let's say the game grit assessment is going to go. We try to do a period every 4 or 5 games. That gives us an idea of where the player is, and they're very interested into it.
What does it mean, grit?
It's a great question. You guys have to define it for your team. That's the best thing. For us, it's basically every time that you have a chance to take advantage over your opponent, you have to do it. As an example, finishing in front for us is grit because you're taking the position on him. First touch, you're influencing the game in the way that you need to do for us to move forward. That's grit for us. So every time that you're taking a positive position over your opponent, for us, that's grit.
What are the feedback from players after seeing these stats?
Some of them are, well, it's always the same thing. And when the stats works for you, they're very happy about it. When the stats doesn't work for you, they don't like it as much. However, they understand it because we take the time at the beginning of each assessment, or each assessment, I should say, to explain it, what it is. Like, what are the components to it, and we laid it out into a presentation into our room to make sure they know what does it represent for them and how we're going to use it. And if they really doesn't want anything to it, have anything with it, it's a personal development plan. If we want some buy-in, we might just skip this one if it doesn't affect their game.
Maybe the last question, do you use PIMA, overcoming isometrics, in SNC sessions in the season? And if yes, in what way?
I've used it. We're not right now. As I said, I'm not the strength coach anymore, so I do not take all the decision. It's a collaboration team, so he's going to take the decision. So my answer would be no for the moment.
Do you face some adversity from the players? Do they buy in right away into the process? Is there some nagging involved?
There's always adversity with the player, which is good, because it's through adversity that you become better. Is there nagging? Not really, because at the end of the day, they know that we're there for them, and that if we're putting all this time, which is often way over a full-time position, it's because we want them to succeed, and they see that the results are going to come if they keep pushing, if they keep buying in. If the buy-in there, I would say that most of the time it is. We're fortunate, because if you come, let's say if you decide to come to McGill, you decided to come to McGill. We have this luxury that if a player comes to us, it's because he decided to come to us, because we recruited him and we think he's going to fit the model of player that we want. But yes, there's always a little bit of adversity, but that's how you improve. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick Delisle Houde. We have now 70 minutes break. Please, we are going to continue at 11:15. Please come back on time. And one information, if you need some photos of you and your colleagues, please find our photographer. She's here, and she is open to make some pictures for you.